What's going on, everybody? Thanks for downloading the Voice of Bedlam podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Santoral. We got a great show planned for you guys today. Hanging out with the Johnson brothers, talking Sean Johnson, Colin Johnson. Sean, how you doing, man?
What's going on, everybody? It's another Tuesday. Hanging out here, talking some sports. I got my 40 ready, so let's get into it. Colin, what is up?
Hanging out down here in Philadelphia. No 40s, but plenty of thoughts on what's going on in the sports world today. Let's get right into it.
All right. But before we get into today's show, let's take a second and tell you guys about a good promotion that we got from New Generation Sports. Now, if you guys want to be part of a new interactive app, sports app, better than fantasy football, you guys need to email Voice of Bedlam at staff@voiceofbedlam.com now to get your invite code. You guys are going to be able to compete for things like autographed hats, regular hats, t-shirts, autographs, game tickets. They're even going to be giving away a car. So now you will be able to get this app from the Play Store and the Apple Store and all that. But as of now, before it launches, you can get, a sneak peek at it if you get your invite code by emailing staff@voiceofbedlam.com. But now, with that, let's get in with today's daily breakdown. All right, let's roll things off with Reggie Bush getting a new deal. Well, signing with a new team. Buffalo Bills signed Reggie Bush to a 1-year deal. Now, Bush signed a 1-year deal with Buffalo. A source with knowledge to the deal told NFL media insider Ian Rappaport. Bush visited the team and passed the physical Monday. Bush did practice with the team today. Now, Reggie Bush is a former Heisman Trophy winner, most known for his time being drafted with the Saints in 2006, staying there through 2010. Then he also played for Miami and 2 seasons for Detroit, and also San Francisco, now going over with the Bills. Colin, what do you think about Reggie Bush, who had 8 carries for 28 yards last year?
Impressive stats right there, is it? I don't know if Reggie Bush is just too injury prone at his, slightly old age of 31, at least as far as NFL running backs go. Like, the dude was always really talented. He was a great receiving back. But I would be surprised if Bush is able to finish the season still on the Bills and still getting any amount of significant carries. Obviously, Carlos Williams is missing the first 4 games due to suspension, and I would expect Reggie Bush to kind of fade his way out of the offense come Carlos Williams' return. What do you guys say?
Where does he fit in the
and
offense
McCoy as well.
with LaShawn McCoy? Yes. Like, where do you see him? You see him coming in on maybe like a 3rd and short, maybe catching a little dump pass for some short yardage, or where does he fit into Buffalo's offense?
Well, let's not forget Carlos Williams is suspended for the first 4 games, and LaShawn McCoy is expected to have limited reps due to an ankle issue. So it kind of seems like at least in training camp, they're going to get a good look at Reggie Bush. But go ahead, Colin.
His kind of strengths are the same as Shady McCoy's strengths. Like, Shady is great coming out of the backfield, catching passes, and moving laterally from side to side. Now, Reggie Bush probably doesn't have the same amount of speed that LaShawn McCoy still has, due solely just to the fact that he's got a little bit more mileage in his legs. He's still going to be one of the quicker guys, but I really don't see Reggie Bush cementing himself much of a meaningful role here in Buffalo. I just think it's too late for the guy. I think he's had a pretty, I know it's probably at the end of the day, you look back on Reggie Bush, like you said, Andrew, he won the Heisman and he was drafted pretty early coming out of the first, in the first round to the Saints. But he never really lived up to the lofty expectations that the country kind of expected from the Heisman Trophy winner. What do you guys think about his career?
Well, the name of his game has really just been those injuries. He's been a guy that's really struggled to stay on the field. He's only played a full season twice, and that was his
in 10 years.
Yeah, twice in 10 years. That was his rookie year in 2006, and in 2012 he played in all 16 games with the Dolphins. So, I mean, it's Reggie Bush he's looking for a job. He found one, but I kind of agree he's pretty much all but done, I would say. Now maybe he still has a little bit of fuel left in the tank, but I'm not really expecting much out of Reggie Bush this year.
Now, Colin, we were talking about the earlier part of his career. Now, in 2006, coming out of the backfield, his rookie year, he had 88 receptions for 742 yards. Those numbers didn't really start to fall off until 2012, but then in 2013, put up 54 catches again. Now, are we really looking at Reggie Bush as a true, just a backup to LaShawn McCoy? But McCoy is very injury prone. And I mean, Reggie Bush hasn't done much out of the backfield lately. I mean, injured a lot. Only played in 5 games last year, 11 the year before that, 14 back in 2013. And he has not rushed for anywhere near 1,000 yards in a quite some time. Do you see it there, Sean?
2013, he had
he had 1,000.
Barely got there.
That was the year though that they were. I think that was was that Joik Bell's.
That was with the Lions
rookie season. Yeah, with Detroit there.
And Megatron as well.
Yeah, that was the year when Reggie Bush was coming off that injury that he had when he suffered when he was with Miami, and he was looking for a job again, and then he made kind of this big comeback, like I'm not done yet type year, and he had a big year, but he wasn't a bell cow by any means. He was more of a like a Darren Sproles type. He was catching passes out of the backfield. He was using more of different packages than just like an I formation or something, an empty, or not an empty backfield, but like a 2-down back type deal.
I gotcha. All right. But let's take a quick second here and tell you guys about a new podcast called The Hangover Couch. Now, if you're looking for a great laid-back, fun show, just a few guys talking about important things like fantasy football, sports, food, beer, more sports, women, and of course, even more sports, you guys need to check out The Hangover Couch, available on all major platforms. And you guys can check them out at hangovercouch.com. That's hangovercouch.com. Similar, you can also find them Twitter, Instagram, at Hangover Couch. Let them know whatever it is you guys think they should be discussing. Go check out The Hangover Couch on iTunes now. All right, so with that being said, let's take a second here and talk some fantasy football and remind you guys to check out Bedlam's Fantasy. Hey, going to be happening at Mother's August 20th, Mother's Bar and Grill in the Circle in Easton. Make sure you get down there. We're going to be doing a live show. We're going to be doing a draft. There's going to be a couple other fantasy leagues going on. We're going to be having a blast. We're even going to let everybody come, not everybody, but a couple guests from the locals come up on the show.
You might get a chance to be on the show.
So make sure you guys come out, jump in the fantasy league.
They got good food. They got good beer. I know Tony, the guy that I know all the guys that own the bar, but they make some really good food down there. Come down and check out the atmosphere there and get a plate of wings, because Tony's wings are really good.
Bueno. Yeah. But and also the whole entire Bedlam's Fantasy is being sponsored by draftkit.com. Make sure you go over there. They hooked us up with a sweet trophy. They got all different models. Some of them as low as $25, and if you really want to get something special, they got like a little knockoff Lombardi. It's about $300 though. But if you want to throw it in, it looks good, a little replica Lombardi for your fantasy. But, so go over to draftkit.com. Now, with that, let's talk about some fantasy and the Jets at the same time. And, I'm talking about Ryan Fitzpatrick finally being signed by Gang Green. Now, me and Sean were talking about this before the show. I want to reiterate here, I don't think Ryan Fitzpatrick is the next Peyton Manning. I don't think he's the next Drew Brees. I think he played really good last year with the Jets, with the Todd Bowles, Brandon Marshall, Eric Decker. I thought they had a nice little unit. Jets really solidifying that defense now that they got Mo Wilkes signed to a long-term deal. Still have Sheldon Richardson, even though he's suspended for week 1. I really thought that Fitzpatrick deserved another year and deserved a franchise tag, which would have got him just shy of $20 million. Now, Kirk Cousins is playing under the franchise tag in Washington. Fitzpatrick couldn't even get that, held out all these months, getting a 1-year, $12 million, fully guaranteed contract from owner Woody Johnson and general manager Mike McHagnon, second-year GM. What do you guys think about the signing of Ryan Fitzpatrick? And then I want to get into a little fantasy look with the Jets. Sean, why don't you tell us what you think about Fitz?
Well, Colin said before the show that he looks like the Deku tree.
Talking about his new haircut.
Most importantly,
Fitzpatrick sporting a new haircut. You got to check that out on Twitter.
He's got this haircut.
It's like a high top fade.
He looks like the Deku tree, which I thought was hilarious.
He looks like Kid and
Which is from the Ocarina of Time, Legend of Zelda, for anyone who does not know.
Yeah, if you don't know, you should.
Yes, Sean and Colin are the resident nerds. They are also the ones where, if you go back a couple episodes ago, talking about Bedlam's big 21 movies of all time, they're the ones who made us put on Star Wars. I apologize.
Well, it's because it had to be on there.
Because it's a top 20 movie.
Yeah, because that's what it is. Anyway, Ryan Fitzpatrick, I mean, you Andrew and John seem to love this guy. Like you got this nickname for him, Ryan Fitzmagic. Like I've never been big on Ryan Fitzpatrick. Like he's got a career as a starter. His record is 43, 61, and 1.
Yes, that is pretty bad.
That's not good. Like I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick at best is a middle-of-the-road quarterback.
Absolutely, but what was the Jets' other choice? And he played great. Listen to Marshall's numbers last year. I mean, Marshall playing in all 16 games, 109 receptions, over 1,500 yards, averaging almost 14 yards a game, 14 yards a catch with 94 yards a game. Now, I mean, Brandon Marshall, though, he's got some butterfingers, putting the ball on the ground 3 times last year. Then we kick it over down to the number 2 guy, Decker, missing 1 game as the number 2, still getting 80 receptions, breaking 1,000 yards. Ryan Fitzpatrick had dual 1,000-yard receivers last year, playing under a first-year head coach being Todd Bowles and a first-year GM in Mike McHagnon. So, I mean, I really thought, you know what, and getting him at $12 million, I mean, I think he got ripped off, but I guess Mike McHagnon knows how to negotiate.
It's a steal for the Jets.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying he's the next.
They were desperate for a quarterback anyway. So, that being said, I guess maybe Ryan Fitzpatrick did get lowballed a little bit, but
a lot of franchise is at 19.
The Jets also weren't going to pay him $20 million a year to be their quarterback.
I mean, Kirk Cousins got 19 and some change. You know what I'm saying?
Kirk
Cousins.
That's the age difference right there.
Yeah,
you're right.
Kirk Cousins hasn't been in the league for 10 years like Ryan Fitzpatrick has. Ryan Fitzpatrick, if he's so good, why is he bounced around so much?
I'm not saying Ryan Fitzpatrick is so good. I'm saying he had the best year of his career last year.
Okay.
And they should try and keep
what?
the team intact. That's what I'm saying.
And they got it done. Good for them.
Well, not exactly. Let's not forget, Ryan Fitzpatrick pretty much single-handedly cost the Jets a playoff appearance last year in Week 17. I forget how many interceptions he had, but wow, did he have a lot in that game. On the season, he had 15, and most of them come in Week 16. And the Jets were a win and in scenario. I mean, double-digit wins, still couldn't squeak in. But let's talk some fantasy and kick it over with King Kojo, Colin Johnson. Now, of course, Colin, I would have to assume you would view Brandon Marshall as a better fantasy choice than Eric Decker. But Brandon Marshall seems to be a second, maybe third-round pick if you're lucky. Decker, you can get a little bit farther back. Can you compare the two and tell me which one? I mean, of course, you do agree that Brandon Marshall would be the better overall, correct?
Yeah, Marshall.
But what about as a value pick?
Marshall is the first option on that team offensively. He's, his 109 receptions last year is no fluke by any mean. Fitzpatrick is going to look to him. He's going to look to him often. Decker will more cases than not be the second option. Marshall is definitely now, I think, worthy of a, maybe even an early second-round pick in, your deeper leagues, your 12-team leagues. He's going to be probably the 15th, 16th player off the board. Now, Decker, if you don't want to lose out on him, you got to start looking at those kind of wide receiver twos and, late fourth and early fifth. most places I would recommend, I typically go 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs in my first 4 picks. And if you don't get Decker there in the late 4th, he might not be coming back around to
really
you
think
in the
that
late
early?
5th.
You think that early? You got to get Decker.
Well, it depends. Like, he's a little bit less valuable in
He had 12
PPR. Like, 80
touchdowns
receptions is still yeah, but 12 touchdowns, that was top 10 in the league.
No,
Like, that's
And
no
I mean,
right
fluke.
there.
Let's. A lot of people were saying now Eric Decker made a name for himself playing with Peyton Manning in Denver on that Super Bowl losing team, back-to-back 1,000-yard performances, first time in his career. Comes over to the Jets. Everybody's saying he can't do it. It was all Peyton. Puts up 962 yards, 74 receptions, only going up with Ryan Fitzpatrick having 80 receptions for over 1,000 yards. Let's not forget this man put up 962 yards with Geno Smith at the helm. So, I mean, I really think – I got to disagree with you, Colin. I think somebody like Eric Decker, if you're in a 10-man league, I think Eric Decker, you might be able to grab him up in the 7th, and I would definitely target him in the 7th with his 80 receptions, 12 TDs. I think if you go any higher – then late 6 is a real reach for Decker.
So what about in a deeper league though, like a 12 or a 14-man league? You might.
Yeah, if you're then you'll
Yeah, he's not making it into the 50s or 60s.
Then I would agree with Colin. All right, but is there anything else before we get into a little touchy-feely story with Dante Moncrief? Anything else you guys want to talk fantasy real quick?
No, that's all I got.
I would say Fitzpatrick if you're in a 2-quarterback league or if you're looking for a bargain quarterback.
I don't call 2-quarterback leagues real at all. It's like
I've actually never played one, but even
What
still,
about as a backup,
you can
a
do
bench player?
you can do a lot worse than Ryan Fitzpatrick as a backup quarterback. And a lot of these people, the Cam Newton season that he had last year, people are going to start reaching for him in like the 2nd or 3rd round. If I'm telling people how to draft, I'm recommending you do not be the first to take a quarterback. You wait, maybe grab your first one around round 6 or 7 or 8, and then grab yourself a nice little Ryan Fitzpatrick in like the 14th, 15th round.
Yeah,
He'll likely be there.
I think you could get Ryan Fitzpatrick with the last pick of the draft, maybe. Like
I definitely agree. I definitely would agree, and he turned in a nice fantasy year.
And he's going to be a matchup. I really think
when I take him, I'll think about trading him to you then, Andrew. Since you love him so much.
I mean, Fitzpatrick threw for 3,905 yards last year and averaging over 244 yards a game, playing in all 16 games. So I really think, depending on the matchup, you could really get a nice performance out of Ryan Fitzpatrick. He was putting up numbers last year. I don't expect him to do it consistently per se, but I really want to get Ryan Fitzpatrick late in a fantasy draft.
There may even be some leagues where Ryan Fitzpatrick doesn't get drafted.
Yeah, waivers.
Absolutely.
If you can pick him up on waivers, he's a great pick, especially if it's a favorable matchup. So yeah, I mean, like, I'm not gonna sit here and hate on Ryan Fitzpatrick, but he does have some value when it comes to fantasy.
Now let's jump over to Nuzinho in Garcia, something like that, from FoxSports.com. An article that they have up at FoxSports.com entitled "Dante Moncrief Vows to Help Daughter of Ex-Teammate." All right. Now, the Indianapolis Colts wide receiver Dante Moncrief was shocked when he learned that his former teammate Zaloro Tipton died after accidentally shooting himself in June. Moncrief's grief quickly turned to concern when he was taught of Tipton's young daughter, Zoe, growing up without a father. And the 3-year Colts wideout is ready and willing to help Zoe out. That comes from being from the South. Moncrief, who was raised in Mississippi, told ESPN, going further into the quote, "Wanting to help people and always give back. Like my dad always says, it's better to give than receive. I look at it as if she's my daughter, and I want to make sure she will be well taken care of. I know that's something he would have done for me." Now, this is real nice. I mean, you always hear about all these stories about, this guy's beating his girlfriend, somebody's being accused of rape, or just being a general jerk. And you got Dante Moncrief, who, wants to help out the daughter of a fallen teammate. Now, Moncrief is a 3-year wide receiver playing for the Colts with Andrew Luck. Now, what do you think Chuck Pagano and Andrew Luck got in store for us this year, Colin?
They're going to have a lot of options. We have a hopefully healthy Andrew Luck, a hopefully solid offensive line. Frank Gore was okay last year. He was no stud by any means, but between Moncrief, T.Y. Hilton, and Philip Dorsett, there is going to be a lot of toys for Andrew Luck to play with, and I can easily see Moncrief, he's got something extra to play for this year. Like, I think he's going to go out there and keep improving. He's been showing a lot over the last 2 years. I think they're going to have
lay it on the line.
Yeah, I think he'll, have an extra chip on his shoulder. He's going to show this little girl, that hey, we're going to be all right. Watch me do what I do. We'll take care of you. So, it's really cool to hear stories like this out of the NFL in a league where I love it, but oftentimes the publicity that players get is not positive. You know what I mean?
There's a lot more bad stories that come out. It seems like
because it's better headlines.
Than good stories.
It's better headlines. I mean, and
Yes,
NFL
you're right.
Network, I don't even understand them. All right, like when the Houston Texans had that brawl with who was it, Washington last year during training camp. Oh, the NFL was in such an uproar. Well, then now I didn't care about it. But then why are you showing it on your network 24 hours? Why are you playing the clip on a loop on the NFL Network? If you don't want all this bad press, why don't you record more stories like Dante Moncrief opposed to Ray Rice? But let's get back on the gridiron and talk about Indianapolis here. Now they got a Week 10 bye this year. They're gonna open up against Matt Stafford and the Lions at home. Then they're going out to Denver facing basically a Mark Sanchez out in Denver and Paxton Lynch starting out behind him. Now that's their Week 2 matchup. Then they're home for the Chargers in Jacksonville. And then we'll leave it there. And they're in Jacksonville. So first 4 games: Lions, Broncos, Chargers, Jags. I can honestly see perhaps the Colts starting off 4-0, if not 3-1, a loss coming Week 2 with the Broncos. Sean, what do you think? Jags, Chargers, Broncos, Lions. How do you think the month of September will treat the Indianapolis Colts? And one game in October.
I see the Colts having a bounce back year, and Andrew Luck especially. I said that, I think, in an article I did a few months ago talking about the Houston Texans. So that's a division rival there. I expect the Colts to come out and look more like the Colts of the 2014 rather than the Colts of 2015. So I would see them going 4-0. That Denver game, is that on the road or is that at home?
It's a road game.
So that might be a loss, but you're talking about
it is September. It's not December.
Yeah. Mark Sanchez at quarterback. I mean, Denver's still got that defense, obviously, but the Colts are still a force to be reckoned with in that AFC South.
All right, but what do you think their record will be with Lions, Broncos, Chargers,
I'll say
Jags?
3-1 also.
3-1
with a
loss.
possible loss coming there at Denver, like you said.
Now, Colin, are you going to agree with us, or are you going to say maybe Indianapolis falls to Blake Bortles and the Jacksonville Jaguar and Alan Hearns? What do you think about that Jaguar?
Yeah, I mean, I could play devil's advocate a bit here. Like, I would imagine a 3-1 start. But, if they're going up against San Diego and they're going up against Jacksonville, those are teams that like to throw the ball, and the Colts do not have a particularly strong secondary. So I can see, in a gunfight, in a shootout, maybe Jacksonville or San Diego can come out on top. But I don't like Phillip Rivers or Blake Bortles as much as I like Andrew Luck. I like Allen Robinson and Alan Hearns a lot, but they kind of match up just as well with, T.Y. and Dorsett and Moncrief there. Keenan Allen is really the only offensive weapon that Phillip Rivers has there. And, we've talked a lot about the, Broncos offense. We don't know what to make of it. Will it be anemic, even though they have 2 stud wide receivers in Sanders and Thomas? I don't know. I would put my money on 3-1, but I would not be terribly surprised if Jacksonville or San Diego maybe stole one from them.
Where do you see that one loss then coming at? Do you see that coming at Denver then?
Yeah, I don't see them beating Denver on the road
And
now,
then
even with the
perhaps-
Sanchez-led
Yeah.
offense.
And in
It's
September,
a real tough
that's
game.
in September that might be an L, but I could, like I said, I could see them maybe Indianapolis squeaking out a win there on the road. Is that
Sure.
their-
I
is
wouldn't
that their
see them
first
if they
road
do
game,
though.
or is that their second road game?
No, they open up at home.
Starting at home with
Okay.
Detroit.
yeah,
Yeah.
September
So
11th.
week 2 going on the road, they might be able to steal one there in Denver.
But I mean, then they got the Chargers home, and then they're at the Jags. I can see them losing one of those two games. Let's move on further with the schedule. We're not going to break it all down. Going to run through it. Starting off week 5, we got the Bears. Week 6, Texans. 7, the Titans. 8, Chiefs. 9, Packers. 10 with a bye. Titans going, then they're home for the Steelers, going to New York to face the Jets, home for the Texans, going to Minnesota, to the Raiders, and then home for the Jags. As a whole, I just ran through that quick. This seems like a manageable schedule. There's no real murderer's row. They're playing the NFC North with the interconference battle there. That's why they're playing the Bears, the Packers, so the Vikings. But
And the Lions, yeah.
so I mean, do we see perhaps the Colts taking back the AFC South, stealing it from the Texans, taking it away from the Titans? And what do you guys think
It's
about
really
the
going
AFC
to be
South?
contingent, I think, upon whether or not Andrew Luck can have a bounce back season, which I think he can. He's only 25, 26. He's definitely got a lot more football in him, and he was drafted number 1 overall for a reason. It's and like Colin said, their defense, especially in that secondary, is not great, but Indianapolis is more predicated on that offense than it is on their defense. They put up a lot of points.
Okay, all right. Colin, we're going to get in now, and why don't we have you talk about an article you guys did up at voiceofbedlam.com looking in at the Eagles. So, guys, make sure you check that up at voiceofbedlam.com, or you can get the link from Colin's Twitter at String and Key on Twitter. Colin, why don't you talk to us about the Eagles, who are starting their preseason Thursday, August 11th, against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What do you think, Colin?
Yeah, so I checked out, along with about 18,000 other fans, checked out a free open practice down there at Lincoln Financial Field this past Sunday. It was a really cool event, a ton of stuff going on out in the concourse area, a lot of entertainment. I played a mean game of Simon Says, but the dude, he knocked me out. I couldn't win. The main prize was an autographed Donovan McNabb football, which I would have loved to win.
Oh, you
but
would have
anyway,
booed. Nobody likes
Nah,
Donovan.
I would have welcomed it with open arms.
He was
Actually, they gave it away to the kid
underappreciated.
playing, not the adult.
Underappreciated.
Yes.
Donovan McNabb is not underappreciated. He's
He's appreciated correctly.
He's appreciated
No,
absolutely.
you
the
guys
way
are bitter Eagles fans.
No, he was the greatest quarterback in franchise history, but when it came to crunch time, he underperformed.
Yeah, but
True.
he was the greatest quarterback you guys
I
pretty
just
much
said
have ever.
that.
Well,
Yeah,
he said that. We all agree with that.
And you
we all
booed
think
him
so
constantly. You
Because
booed him constantly.
Philly fans want to see production. They
Perfection.
Want to see.
I mean, why? They're not used to it.
Harsh, bro. Harsh, bro.
Maybe that's why.
Anyway,
maybe that's
guys,
why we get
let's
more
move
mad
on
at
from
that.
Donovan McNabb. He's not the subject of this story. Speaking of quarterbacks, Carson Wentz is the subject of this story. That's really why I went down. I went with a couple of my buddies. We really just wanted to go see Carson Wentz more than anything. We wanted to see how the kid looked. And I'll tell you, he looks like he belongs in the NFL, but he also looks like a rookie. So there were certain times where he would miss an open receiver, he'd overthrow him, throw behind a couple guys, and his deep throws looked a little wobbly at times. So if you want to know more about the Eagles and how they look so far this year, you can check out the article yourself. But, they did everything from, just wide receiver and corner drills with the quarterback throwing to them. They did 7-on-7s. They did 11-on-11s. A lot of people are looking at the, position battles. Sam Bradford did look like the top quarterback there. There's some running back questions with Ryan Matthews currently hurt. Darren Sproles actually ended up taking most of the first-team running back snaps. He actually ripped off a nice 40-yard run right up the gut on 11-on-11 drills. So there's a couple other questions there. The defense looked pretty good. Eric Rowe is a second-year corner out of Utah, and he started the last 5 games of the year last year, and a lot of folks thought maybe he would be able to cement himself as that starting corner going into this year. He actually was taking some second-string snaps. Sean, I kind of want to know what you think about that. You're an Eagles fan along with myself. Eric Rowe played decently last year, besides the whole Calvin Johnson Thanksgiving game debacle where Calvin Johnson scored 3 touchdowns on him. But how do you feel about Eric Rowe not necessarily being able to cement himself as a starter? Peterson said that he's kind of been slow to pick up the defense.
Well, Nolan Carroll was the starting quarter going into last year, across from who was the other starting corner last year?
Byron Maxwell.
Oh yeah,
who's
that
thing of the past.
Retired, right?
No, yeah.
Maxwell retired this year, right?
No, Walter Thurman retired. Maxwell was part of the Kiko Alonso deal that cemented the Eagles
he went to
13
Miami.
for 8.
Yeah. Nolan Carroll was, the starting corner last year, and Eric Rowe just kind of got some playing time because of Byron Maxwell, I think, was hurt actually. And I liked what I saw out of Eric Rowe. He did show some flashes of some brilliance there. I remember against the Jets, he had that big pick in the end zone. Do you remember that one?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Eric Rowe he was a rookie last year, so he's going to have some growing pains. I think Eric Rowe is going to end up being maybe a guy they throw in a nickel package. He end up being like a slot corner or something like that. And maybe he sees some more playing time, depending on whether or not Nolan Carroll can actually stay on the field either health wise, because Nolan Carroll is also coming off an injury.
Yeah, he tore his fibula last year.
Yeah, so Eric Rowe I think is going to get a decent amount of playing time, and then Leonis McKelvin is obviously going to have that other starting job because he's a veteran that's already also played under Jim Schwartz. So Eric Rowe, I don't really expect him to be the Week 1 starter across from Leonis McKelvin, but we'll see what happens with him. I definitely think he'll see the field more often than maybe some people think.
All right, now guys, I got to ask you a question. Philadelphia Eagles coming in with a bye week, Week 4, October 2nd. 3 games before the bye week. 13 after. Now, a lot of teams, the Giants have been lucky for several years, always getting buys in the middle. They have one as well this year. A lot of people like that. They all get healthy, and then they make that playoff run. But you guys will only have played 3 games. How do you guys feel about having that early of a bye week? Colin, what do you think? Sean, what do you think?
Playing 3 games and then getting the bye out of the way quickly, I actually am kind of a fan of it because I don't like when the bye ends up being kind of in like the meat of the season, like week 10, week 11, because those games end up usually being more meaningful.
Well, since you say that, Week 10, you'll be facing Julio at home, Julio Jones and the Falcons. Week 11, you got the Seahawks. Week 12, Green Bay. Week 13, the Bengals, sandwiched in between 2 division games with the Giants and Redskins. That is murderer's row right there.
You said murderer's row earlier.
The Eagles got one.
That 3-week span between week 11 and week 13 is definitely murderer's row.
But dude,
you could throw in week 10 there too. The Falcons are
week 8 Cowboys. So you got a divisional game followed by another divisional game going to the Giants. And then Falcons, Seahawks, Green Bay, Bengals landing in a division game with the Redskins. I think that whole stretch, week 8 to week 14, ridiculous for the Eagles.
Well, maybe looking at it that way, throwing it a bye might be beneficial, but I've always been a fan of getting the bye week out of the way quickly.
Really? See, I'm dead against that. I'd be pissed if the Giants had anything earlier than week 8. I mean, I guess I would settle for week 7, but a week 4, 5, even 6.
Well, yeah, because you're talking about then like 12 games in a row with no stops in there. But
exactly.
Like I said, for me, it's more like, all right, so I got 1 week off where I don't get to watch my team early in the season, then I get to watch my team 12 weeks in a row without.
So, Colin, how do you feel about the early bye?
I don't really like it. If I was a player, I would rather it be in the middle of the season, just so you can kind of get some games out of the way and then take a much needed rest halfway through. As a fan, I kind of like all my games right in a row, so I kind of like getting it out of the way because then I know I got 12 straight weeks of being able to watch my team. But if I was a player, I would not like it that early.
Now, talk to me about these final 8 games, final 9 games. I'm talking Cowboys, Giants, Falcons, Seahawks, Green Bay, Cincinnati, Redskins. That's up till week 14. You guys close out the season. Baltimore, Giants again, Cowboys again. That whole end of the season, I'm sorry, I do not see the Eagles making the playoffs with that schedule. What do you guys think of the record as a whole? I mean, the beginning part of the season, a lot easier. And you guys get screwed with that early bye week, opening up home for the Browns, going to Chicago, home for the Steelers, bye week, going to Detroit, going to Washington, home for Minnesota, then you get to the Cowboys game. How do you guys really see you guys finishing? I mean, I think you're really pushing hard to be 8-8 at best. Colin, what do you think about this schedule as a whole?
They're gonna be. I think they'll win anywhere from 5 to 8 games.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a good
no
year.
less, no more.
The Eagles
7-9, 7-9 or 8-8 at the
being
absolute best.
generous with 8-8. I'm being
The
generous.
Eagles don't have a good squad going into this year. We have Chip Kelly to kind of thank for that. There's not really there's not a plentiful bounty of playmakers on this team.
On the offense, especially.
Especially on the offense. The only real concrete the only thing to really to hang your hat up going into this year is that defense. I think the Eagles actually end up with a top 10 defense this year, and that might be pushing it a little bit. So really what it's going to boil down to is whether or not the Eagles defense can keep points off the board in order to keep them in games, because they're not going to have a lot of offensive snaps. The offense is going to struggle to move the ball, I think, and it really doesn't matter who they're playing. So like Colin said, I would put their win total at anywhere between 5 to 8. I would probably say 7-9, 6-10. Worst case scenario, best case scenario, probably 8-8.
I'm so glad about this. I'm looking at the Eagles' schedule. A week from our next show, a week from Thursday, there will be preseason football. Eagles versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, I mean, Hall of Fame game just a few days away. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's great to be talking some meaningful football, and you guys can catch every single NFL game on DirecTV by calling 855-668-9061. When you guys call 855-668-9061, you will get a free installation of your DirecTV package. Make sure to check out the NFL Sunday Ticket Max, where you can get all the channels, Red Zone with Andrew Siciliano, and every out-of-market game there is. You guys have got to hit up DirecTV if you're a real fan at 855-668-9061 for your free installation today. All right, guys. Now let's wrap up today's daily breakdown, and let's get into a nice little news segment we're doing here called Johnson Squared, where the two Johnson brothers throw around the little baseball,
The
I guess.
baseball.
Yeah, the baseball. They put on some gloves. They go have a catch. Johnson Squared, where the brothers go have a catch. What's going on in the MLB?
Me and you used to play lots of catch.
We do. We used to. Yeah. I lost my glove, Sean. I think you lost my glove. It's your fault because you used
I'm pretty
it.
sure it's sitting in my basement, but that's
Yeah, well, you better get it for me because I want to play baseball.
because of all the baseball.
A
you're playing?
house in turmoil.
We don't live together, so.
Whatever.
Speaking of baseball,
Anyway, as all baseball fans know, the MLB trade deadline came and went yesterday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, Colin, let's talk a little bit about some of the winners, some of the teams that made some big moves yesterday.
I can't believe the Texas
The
Rangers.
Texas
I knew we were
Rangers.
going to say that at the same time. Like, talk about going for it. They are really depleting their system. And this is a team, and you could probably relate, Sean. I mean, we can relate. You know what it's like to, either make the playoffs and not get the ultimate prize. Luckily, you and I as Phillies fans, we got there in 2008, but the Rangers were there in 2010. They were there in 2011. They
Yep.
lost both in if you remember correct, like the game 6, I believe it was, of the 2011 World Series against the Cardinals. Like, the Rangers had that game in the bag, and then their bullpen blew that game. They ended up losing game 7. The Rangers want a World Series championship
Yes, they
really badly.
Yes, they
So
do.
they're going out and they traded for everybody. Who didn't they trade for this yesterday?
Jeremy Hellickson.
They didn't trade for Jeremy Hellickson. No, he's still around in Philadelphia. But they did
Who
get.
did they get?
They got
Jonathan Lucroy.
They got Jonathan Lucroy. They got Carlos Beltran.
They got right-handed reliever from Milwaukee, Jeremy Jeffress, also from Milwaukee. They got right-handed pitcher Lucas Harrell from the Braves, and a left-hander pitcher Dario Alvarez, also from Atlanta. So if there's anybody who were winners at the trade deadline yesterday, it is the Texas Rangers, because they are definitely going for it.
Now, what do you guys think about them guys in the pinstripes, though?
Oh, those Yankees. Well, the Yankees, for at least the first time in my memory, were actually sellers at the deadline. It's actually funny. I read an article a little bit earlier that said the Yankees' championship flags were lowered to half-mast because, as far back as I can remember, Colin, and you can go ahead and comment on this when I'm done. The Yankees have always been buyers at the trade deadline, but this year they were actually sellers. They traded away Ivan Nova to the Pittsburgh Pirates, a starter that they had who was actually a reliever. Now, a starter-made reliever. They traded him to Pittsburgh, and the Yankees didn't really make any moves yesterday.
Not the kind that they're going for it. When they traded away Beltran, they traded away. They traded away Aroldis Chapman. Actually, oh yeah, he's got over 20 home runs. He's still swinging the bat at 39 effectively. That just shows how much the Rangers, but the Yankees probably made out better than anybody else as far as the sellers go.
They're looking towards their future.
Yeah, they have an array of prospects that I'm sure that, we look back at these trades in 3 years, they'll be looking at a few of their starting pieces on the field and saying, hey, well, remember in 2016 when we were kind of hovering around the wild card spot but decided to, say, forget this, let's think for the future. It's a good thing that we did. It's kind of like, Sean, you and I are looking at what the Phillies did last year where they finally just, gave up on trading away Cole Hamels. And now we've got some prospects that are going to be coming up within the next year or two, and I think we'll all be like, hey, well, this was way more effective than us just having Cole Hamels right now. I think the Yankees will be like, well, it's a good thing we don't have Aroldis Chapman anymore. It's a good thing we got rid of Beltran when we could. I think the Yankees will, especially because they'll have these prospects, and we know they have the money to go out and sign whoever they want upcoming in free agency over the coming years. I wouldn't be surprised for them to make a push for somebody like a Bryce Harper, and it pains me to think about it, but that dude's going to be making over $30 million a year somewhere, and I bet it won't be Washington.
Speaking of the Rangers, though, the Rangers open up a series tonight with the they're playing Baltimore tonight, and the Yankees are playing the Mets, who also made a little bit of noise yesterday,
Subway Series,
making a trade with the Cincinnati Reds for Jay Bruce, who's actually leading the league in RBIs right now. Colin, what do you got on Jay Bruce?
And tell me, Colin, also, who do you think, we're talking about the Phillies and the Mets, who do you see winning the NL East?
Well, not the Phillies.
Yeah, the Washington Nationals are going to come away with that division. The Mets made a nice trade going for Jay Bruce. It's kind of, familiar to what they did last year, trading for Yoenis Cespedes, making sure that they had another bat that they could throw out in the outfield. And Jay Bruce is like he's a power hitter. He will drive in a lot of runs. He'll hit a lot of home runs. He will also strike out a ton. So it's going to help their offense. It might be a bit of a spark that they need. But the thing is, the Washington Nationals are just I mean, that rotation is too stacked with Strasburg and Scherzer up at the top, both having great years. Again, Bryce Harper is having a bit of a down year, but their bullpen's been solid. At least, Jonathan Papelbon's been having his own kind of issues, so it's in a bit of turmoil, but I don't see the Nationals relinquishing this to the Mets anytime soon. The Marlins are still in front of them anyway.
Yeah, the Mets, as they stand right now on August 2nd, are 7.5 games back of that first place in the NL East, and they're also chasing the Miami Marlins, who are only 5 games out of first place.
Things would be different if Matt Harvey was pitching well this year in the first place, or B didn't go out with the surgery he's going to be having.
Yeah, and he's coming off the Tommy John surgery as well still.
Yeah, so there's too much. There's too much for them to surmount to catch the Nationals, I'd imagine, to this one. And you know what? It is still really early. It's August 2nd here. A lot can change. That trade that they made for Cespedes last year was really the spark they needed to catch up with Washington, who ended up kind of blowing the lead or the division in the end. So they're not out of it by any means. They're still fighting for a wild card spot. The Jay Bruce trade will definitely help. They'll be able to drive in some more runs and hit some more home runs. But I got to give my nod to the Washington Nationals. But I still feel like the Cubs or Giants are going to be the teams coming out of the National League for the World Series this year, regardless.
Now, what about in the American League East?
Well, the Baltimore Orioles, they kind of stayed relatively silent at the trade deadline this year. But, they've been playing it pretty good baseball for all year long. They're driving in a lot of runs. They have a lot of power in that lineup. The Blue Jays made a lot of noise last year, and they're still hovering around. The Red Sox have, they've kind of jumped back into contention after a really down year last year. They're trying to go from last to first place again. And the Yankees and Rays are going to be bottom dwellers. So I can see all three of those teams, Red Sox, Orioles, or Blue Jays, winning that division there. I really wouldn't be too surprised by any of them.
All right, so
what do you think, Sean?
Well, you're talking about the Baltimore Orioles.
Well, just the AL East.
Well, I think that division is, I don't want to say up for grabs. I mean, Boston's still there, and I still think Baltimore ends up walking away with that division. Well, I shouldn't say walking away, but I still think they end up winning that division. I think they have the most potent lineup, like you said. But I'm going to switch things over to the NL West, talk about the Dodgers with Yasiel Puig. Now, there was a story that broke, I think, yesterday where Yasiel Puig actually missed a flight with the rest of the team because he was being told that he was either going to be demoted or traded yesterday. So, Con, what do you think about that?
I think he's a bit whiny.
I think you're talking about star player as little as 2 years ago.
Yes, and you know what? Since we've started this podcast, he has officially now been demoted. So Yasiel Puig, a huge story when he propelled into the league from Cuba a few years ago, and now he finds himself in the minors. So I think he needs to grow up. I think he's got a lot of growing up to do. If you're not performing, you're going to get sent down. This is Major League Baseball. This is professional sports. They only employ the best. So Yasiel Puig needs to go back to AAA and just grow up a little bit, work on his swing, work on his attitude, and maybe he'll be, coming back to the Dodgers. And they're still fighting for the playoff spot too. They're very close to the Giants there in the NL West. So it's not like the Dodgers are giving up on the season, sending Puig down. Like, they're trying to send him down to send a message like, hey, get your stuff together. Like, fix this. Come back ready to play, and let's win this division.
Now, whether you want to see the Dodgers play in Brooklyn or L.A., you can call up Ticket Software LLC today.
You're not going to see them in Brooklyn.
I know that, Sean. It was a joke. But you guys can call Ticket Software LLC today at 866-853-3454 and score some great tickets to any game you need. Talking about 83,000 events worldwide. And we're not just talking sports. We're talking operas. We're talking plays. We're talking any kind of event you can think of. Hit up Ticket Software LLC at 866-853-3454 Now, let's real quick. We're gonna close up Johnson Squared here, and now we only got a couple of minutes, like 2-3 minutes. Sean, why don't you tell us a little bit about tonight's article spotlight? D-Hop is not happy, published up at voiceofbedlam.com by Sean Johnson, aka Sean Bedlam. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, on Saturday morning, DeAndre Hopkins walked out of practice, claiming he wasn't getting paid what he's worth, and that's actually a quote. He's due to make $1 million as a base salary going into 2016.
Yeah, he's worth a lot more than that.
Yeah, it's a pretty team-friendly amount. I almost said the Rangers. The Texans actually have an option that they could pick up on his 5th year. They can wait to re-sign him after next year, in which case he makes $7.915 million in 2017. But a little update on that.
Coming into his 4th year, by the way.
Yeah, going into his 4th year on a rookie deal. But a little bit of an update on that. He actually walked back into practice on Sunday. So it was one of those rare
24-hour holdout.
Yeah, one of those rare one-day holdout type of deals. So I'm not really sure what to make of that. DeAndre,
I mean, they can't let him.
He must want to play football more than he wants the money, at least seemingly.
I mean, last year he had 111 catches, over 1,500 yards with 13 touchdowns. Never missed a
11
game.
touchdowns.
Yes, 11 touchdowns, excuse me. Never missed a game in his 3 years, coming into his 4th year out of Clemson. A lot of great wide receivers coming out of Clemson. All right, we're talking about a 6'1" guy, and DeAndre Hopkins is a little scrappy. He ain't no prima donna. He's not afraid to block. DeAndre Hopkins can get involved in the game multiple ways. I think he is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, but he is on that rookie deal, and I don't expect the team to really budge now that the year is started. He's already ended the holdout. I'd be surprised if we hear any contract talks at all. It's going to go two ways. We're either going to hear he signs a contract really soon, or we're not going to hear it till the season's over. Colin, you got anything to wrap up on D-Hop real quick on Sean's D-Hop is not happy article at voiceofbedlam.com?
Well, I know he only was gone for a day, but I think what it at the very least proves is that he is willing to walk out. He is willing to fight for the fact that he is an underpaid wide receiver and he wants to be paid relative to what he is worth to the Texans. And I believe maybe thanks to this, maybe it wouldn't have happened if he didn't do it, but I bet he will get a new contract taken care of by the time the season starts, because they want DeAndre Hopkins happy. And if he's going to be eligible to make close to $8 next year.
All right, everybody. I guess that's going to wrap things up for today. Hope you guys had fun hanging out with us. No Devil John today. I'm pretty sure it's the first show John's ever missed, but I'm sure he'll be here Thursday. Also, no Sam Stocks. Haven't heard from the little chap from the UK in a bit.
Yeah,
but I'm sure if you guys want to check him out, go to voiceofbedlam.com, see what's going on. Remember to come out August 20th down to Mother's Bar and Grill. See the show in person. Maybe have a chance to be on there, getting one of the fantasy drafts, get some cheap beer, and good-looking women. All right, guys, make sure you hit us up, facebook.com/BOBpod, and get me up on Twitter at Andrew Bedlam. Also, remember, if you guys want to get involved with that new sports app, gaming app, totally free, email staff@voiceofbedlam.com to get your invite code now. But for King Kojo, Colin Johnson's on the phone, Sean Bedlam, and myself, Andrew Bedlam, we're getting the hell out of here.